All right, it's Lucas from Livewire, and I'm actually here today with Brian from the home team. How are you doing, buddy?
Good. How are you?
I'm fantastic. It's early morning here, and I start work in a few hours. But I think you're going to be starting work in a few hours too, right? You're in Boston tonight.
Yeah, it's 7 p.m. and we play at about 9:30.
Yeah, well, that's. I feel really honored that you've taken some time out to have a quick chat with us about the new album and a couple other things as well. So really appreciate it.
No worries.
Awesome. So speaking of this tour, you're currently on tour with Scene Queen, Magnolia Park, Honey Revenge, Let Down, and Australia's own Stand Atlantic, which is really cool. The tour concept is super interesting to me. So can you just give a quick explainer of how that works?
Yeah, so all four of the headliners are rotating every night. So for example, we are playing last tonight, but last night we played first of the headliners, so third. Um,
Hmm.
and it's meant to kind of fill the void that Warped Tour has left. It's being put on by Kevin Lyman himself, and
I didn't
uh,
actually know that.
yeah. He's very involved with it, and he's been great. And it's the first year of it. It's already going really well. I'm really excited about it. But I remember on the first day we had this big meeting and we went over the fact that it's supposed to be about rebuilding the community of this scene of music because COVID took a toll on it and the lack of Warped Tour took a toll on it. So I'm really honored to be a part of it, especially considering we've only kind of just got here as a band. You know what I'm saying?
Hmm.
Uh, and so to be on stage with Stand Atlantic, for example, who we've known about forever, and other amazing bands, like it's really sick.
Yeah, Magnolia Park's had a really big blow up too with like TikTok and social media and stuff. They just know how to play that game. So it's really
They
cool seeing you guys on the same level. Scene Queen's actually doing her debut tour here very soon as well. So it's definitely some really cool bands on that bill that, yeah, yeah, super interesting. Now, in terms of the genre of the band, you said you're a fairly new band, obviously. I think you've only been around maybe what, 10 years? Is
Yeah,
it 10
about
years?
10 years. Yep.
Yeah, okay. And you've kind of taken this like approach to music that you guys have self-described as heavy pop.
Mhm.
Now, how did you kind of come across like distilling both pop music and metalcore, whatever you want to call it, into something where it basically sounds like it could be either thing?
Yeah, it kind of goes back to our first album, which was not a heavy pop album at all.
No.
Um, Called Better Off. It was basically the kind of music that we thought people would want to hear because the home team was formed in an effort to make more approachable music because John and Daniel, the drummer and guitarist, they go back into like deathcore and hardcore bands. And
Hmm.
they kind of just started to hit a wall with that genre. They still love it to this day and they do miss playing it all the time. But eventually they were like, if we want to do this like longevity style, like we should probably consider maybe a slightly more approachable genre of music.
Hmm.
And so what ended up happening with Better Off was that it was an album made uh, for the sake of what we thought other people would like. And that's why we like that album, but it's not as close to us as some of our later releases. And we kind of realized that once Better Off didn't do quite what we were hoping for, um, we kind of just decided we should probably just make whatever we want.
Hmm.
And John has one of the most eclectic music tastes of anybody I know. His Spotify playlist is crazy.
Hmm.
And then for example, I come from like a prog rock and prog metal background, but today I hardly listen to a lot of rock anymore. Now I listen to mostly like contemporary R&B. Um, and so we just had all these different styles of music that we liked listening to that we wanted to try and distill into our influence and try and put into music in a very tasteful way, not like a hodgepodge, like trying to mesh two things that don't belong together way, but more so like, oh, this is clearly me, but it's influenced by this and this and this and this, like this R&B artist or The Weeknd or Japanese rock or chill hop music. It's like all sorts of different stuff that we really, really enjoy. And so once it boiled down, like we realized the direction that we were heading was metal music because we all come from metal and pop music because that's the most basic way that I can describe everything else that we listen to. Um,
Yeah.
So yeah,
No, for
that's
sure.
pretty.
I didn't actually know that you had like a prog background. That's super interesting.
Yeah, so like my favorite band of all time growing up in high school was Coheed and Cambria. And then when I got into
Dude,
college, oh, let's go. They got the
dude,
keyword
I'm
baby
like,
and the dragonfly. Let's go. What the fuck?
they're here in November, and I'm doing all three shows. They're
That's
playing with
so sick.
Periphery and Intervals.
That's gonna be a great show. I saw that announcement because Aaron posted it.
Yep,
And I was super jealous.
yeah.
I don't here's a plug if anybody wants to know. We have a song with intervals on our new album, called Love and Co.
I've I
Um,
have that on my list of
yep,
questions. I want to ask you
I
about that
figured.
question specifically. But
But
no,
anyway, yeah.
that's interesting though. So I had no idea that Coheed or like even just prog in general was like such a big kind of part of your career or part of your like early musicianship.
Yeah, it spills into how I like to deliver the music. It's not the music itself now is a lot simpler than like Coheed, for example, or I used
Hmm,
to listen to a lot of like a band called Era back when they were really, really complicated. And Born of Osiris was another favorite of mine. And there's a band called The Deer Hunter that I really loved. They're not metal, but they're very proggy. Um,
yeah.
and so yeah, it spills into how I like to deliver music, not necessarily structure it that way.
Hmm.
We're still, we're still trying to do pop, so the structure is definitely going to be more concise. Um, but yeah, I still have a lot of love for that genre of music, and it has a big influence on who I am now as a musician for sure.
Hell yeah, that's awesome. Okay, so I guess because Aaron and Intervals has come up, so you guys have done like collaborations with a few different artists across like a few different types of like metal and rock and stuff. For example, the song that got me into you guys was Danger with
That is
Veil of
so not surprising.
Really? Because of the Coheed love. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you guys just kind of popped up on like a Spotify shuffle, and I'm like, well, this is really cool. Like, I love it so much. But obviously, like, yeah, you like Jeff Loomis, who used to play for Nevermore and Arch Enemy. You've got Yvette Young from Covet. And then on the new album, you've got Broadside, who are more of a bit of a pop punk band, and also Aaron from Intervals. What's the collaboration like with all these different genres of like rock and metal when you're coming together to kind of make a song together?
We don't typically like to do collabs with people just to do them.
Hmm,
We much rather find somebody whose art would elevate whatever we're doing. And Ollie from Broadside, for example, their new music, they started as a pop punk band, but they've taken a similar route to us in which they started to do a lot darker, more brooding music, that's much artsier. And he just has this aura to him that when we were writing Somebody Else's Face, the song that he's on, it just made so much sense. It's just like it's dark, it's sexy, and it's sad. All three of those
hmm.
things are Broadside's new music.
Yeah, hell yeah. So funnily enough, so again, because I kind of got in with Danger, it was not long before Bragg had come out. And so when the new album dropped, I went through and like listened to Crucible of Life like nobody's business. And I actually found myself kind of like listening to some of their stuff purely because of the feature on your guys' album. But they're great. They're really cool.
Cool, fuck yeah, yeah. I Jeff or having Jeff Loomis was really wild because that was mostly a connection. Our engineer at the time just knew him because he
Hmm.
I think he lived in Seattle, and they had just worked together a lot. He had done his solo project, and he was like, "Hey, do you want me to ask Jeff if he wants to rip a solo?" I was like, yeah,
It's
and he
wild.
met us later that day, like no, sorry, the day that he was working on it, he was like, "Hey guys, I'm almost done. I've been working on it for like 9 hours. My fingers are bleeding." We're like, "Bro, you could have phoned it in. We would have thought it was sick." Yeah.
That's
So and
commitment though. That's commitment.
we had a feeling he would do that. So
Yeah,
he was and so I'm hoping to have a guitar solo on every album from I guess.
hell yeah. And I mean, speaking of guitar solos, the one from Aaron on the end of Love and Co is so good.
He crushed it. He did a really phenomenal job. And Intervals is one of those bands that John and I, the guitarist, when I first joined the band, Intervals was one of the first bands that we realized we had in common. And that was 10 years ago. Like
Yeah, wow.
we've loved Aaron's work forever. I
Mm.
remember going to shows in Seattle at Studio 7 of him and Plenty doing different. Oh, speaking of John,
Hey.
interrupt? No, you're good. I remember I was just talking about going to interval shows way back in the day. Yeah. And so that was one of the first artists that John and I realized we had in common. And yeah, we love his work, and he did such a phenomenal job on his solo.
Yeah, I'm just hoping one day we get like a Plintervals tour because we've never had Pliny and Intervals do a tour of Australia, but you guys in America get them like all the time. It sucks.
The
Anyway,
last one was a while ago, but yeah, I would love to see another one.
hell yeah. So something else that's also really fun about you guys is your music videos. They're always pretty wacky and off the wall and like really funny. Where does the inspiration to make these kind of like ridiculous videos come from?
A lot of that is John. He comes up with some wacky ideas, but then also Sam, our director, he's just done a phenomenal job of bringing it to life. We only started working with him on the Crucible of Life cycle, but he is absolutely knocked out of the park. Um, we're really excited about, and we told him like what our influences were in the music videos that we really liked, um, and he said, "Say no more. I got it." And he's
Oh
just
yeah.
done an job since.
Is he the guy that's in the Loud video? Is that actually him or is that someone else?
No, that's an actor. That guy's name is Blake Rozier. He's like a comedian in LA. And he runs with a bunch of other comedians and does really funny sketch comedy. Um,
Hmm.
no, the director's name's Sam Link.
That would have been really funny though. That would have been like super meta, like if it was actually him in the video, like just abusing the living shit out of you guys.
Yeah. Some people have thought that. Some people have literally thought that he was the one who made the video. It's like, nope, that's an actor.
Okay, so very recently, you guys were actually in Australia on the Caskets tour.
Hmm. Yeah, it
Yeah,
was
so
a
that
lot
was
of
your
fun.
date. Yeah, so that was your debut tour. So I actually got to meet you guys after the show. And you probably don't remember because that was a very. You guys were like out in the courtyard at the Brightside, and it was just photo out, photo out. Like you guys were very efficient. Um,
Was this
but
the last? Was this
yeah,
uh what
Brisbane.
is it's the thank you, Brisbane. I was like, it's not Bristol because that's in Brisbane. That I am gonna be honest, I was a little drunk when you met me.
Oh yeah, yeah, I could tell.
Yeah, I was having a
Um,
really good time.
so with that being kind of like you guys' debut tour, I think you also debuted some of the new songs on that tour cycle, right?
Yes. The first time we played Bragg was there. The first time we played Overtime was there. And I think that was it.
Yeah.
Because
So
those
I think overtime dropped while you guys were here.
no, it dropped shortly before.
Was probably before. Okay. So what's it like kind of going into a market where you don't really know like how you're going to be received and then just playing these songs that really haven't been played before? Like was that kind of like a bit of a daunting thing?
For oh, you know what? Hell is another one that we played for the first time there.
Oh yeah, true.
For Bragg, that song is fun and easy and whatever.
Hmm.
Um, Hell and Overtime, for me at least, are two of the hardest songs in the set. They are really high up there. Um,
Hell is like fast, and your vocals on that song are crazy.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Yeah, they are difficult to replicate. Let me say that much.
yeah, for sure.
Um, but
But yeah, no, that's oh, sorry.
well, I was gonna say it was daunting to an extent, but at the same time, like, I mean, we've been a band for 10 years now. We know it comes with playing shows, and we practiced a lot for him. So we had him dialed in, and we more than anything, we were excited to play them.
Hell yeah. I'm really pumped I got to see him. Now, just because after that show, when I quickly had a chat with you, I was like, please come back, like, because you guys absolutely knocked it out of the park. I think out of the four bands, you guys were my favorite by a mile.
Thank you.
And you said you did want to come back soon. Is there anything in the works to potentially come back to tour like an actual Crucible of Life tour, or?
So we right now are planning our 2025, and what our general plan is to try and squeeze in a Australian headliner around the other tours that we have planned. Um,
Hmm,
and so which means that it might not get the Australian headliner might not get confirmed or planned until a little later, or
Yeah.
closer to when it would actually happen. And it's also not for sure, but I'm crossing my fingers to be able to come back. But yes, our tentative plan is to do an Australian headliner next year.
Hell yeah, I'm so excited for that. So last question, I'll just kind of wrap everything up. But obviously, you mentioned you guys are from Seattle, and I feel like over the last maybe like 10 years, Seattle's kind of been a bit quiet with like bands kind of blowing it up into the mainstream. Is there any bands that are from that area that you would probably recommend are on the come up and are bands to look out for?
Yeah, we have buddies in a band called Avoid. We have known them forever, and we've never actually toured together, but we've ran in the same circles multiple times, and I've known them since they were kids, and they're great. They're great at what they do. There's a band that I will plug because I produce them. They're called Pallets.
Yep.
I have a feature on one of their songs. They're really good. Um, yeah, there's a who am I forgetting? Um, shoot, Instant Crush. Instant Crush is really good. Yeah, they're from Seattle too. We played a couple shows with them back about a year ago, and yeah, they're fantastic.
Hell yeah. Well, sounds like if you're going to try and line up the Australian headline tour, you've got to support in there with Avoid. You can do the tour that you've been longing to do.
Oh yeah,
Cool. Awesome. Well, Crucible Life is now out on streaming platforms. Amazing record. Congrats on all the success with it. Appreciate taking the time out and absolutely kill it tonight.
thank you, dude. Appreciate it very much.